Are we good to go? Okay, thank you. Hi everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I'm super excited to be with you, especially this time of night. So if you are awake and alert, thank you and kudos to you. I have my tea, you probably have your coffee. And if you are in another part of the country now on the East Coast, thank you for being with us as well. So today I wanted to have a conversation with you guys simply about student loans and entrepreneurship. Because we are a part of the Corona Con, it would be befitting to talk about what changes are happening per student loans. And so, with student loans right now, it's a bit of I would say, a fickle situation. The government is trying to do a really good job of making borrowers happy per their student loan debt and trying to find an amenable um, middle, if you will. And so, what I want to share with you guys is, of course, what's happening via the CARES Act during COVID-19 and how you can take advantage of it. And, really, if you're an entrepreneur, how to manage student loan debt as an entrepreneur, or if you're thinking about becoming one, especially after all of this mayhem. I hope this information helps. So, per President Trump's initiative, what's happening right now is that they've granted 6 months, which comes out to about September 30th. September 30th. You're going to see that there has been allowed administrative forbearance until September 30th. Now, you do have to request that. To my knowledge, I haven't seen or heard of any lenders applying that automatically. So online or by calling them, preferably online, you can request an administrative forbearance. The other thing is this is the time, guys, like this is a great time that if you wanted to actually pay down your student loan debt, you could because they're not attacking the principal. Excuse me, they're not taking the interest, so just principal. So whatever payment amount that you would be making during this time would go straight to your principal. You're probably like, okay, like, well, why would I want to pay on my principal? I could take advantage of this, this 6 month administrative forbearance, and you could. But what I would recommend you think about too is you can jump your credit score. So when your student loans report to your credit score, to your credit report, I should say, what happens essentially is that really we're seeing an accumulation of interest if you're not aggressively paying them down. But right now, because interest is not accruing, you could be able and eligible to put any money you could onto the debt. So I hope that kind of clarifies that. So if you're putting a couple hundred, that definitely will show up in your total debt to income ratio, like the total amount owed, and that's going to definitely jump your credit score. Now, I will say if you are in the public service loan forgiveness program, this is going to be crucial. The public service loan forgiveness program, um, it's very fickle. Like it's going to be for some people challenging to keep their payments going. And then for some people, it's going to be really challenging to decide if they should reduce their payments at this time. But if you're in the public service loan forgiveness program and you're able to continue to make your payments, the good news is that it's going to count. So I'm going to recommend that if you can definitely make your payment, you should make your payment so that your loans can count. So that's cool. Now, here's the thing. What I'll tell you ultimately is that you're going to find yourselves kind of like having to decide if you want to take advantage of the administrative forbearance. One, it could jeopardize your public service loan forgiveness. I recommend you do. But two, if you have things like home buying coming up or big credit purchases, I'm going to recommend that you go ahead and continue to stay in repayment. So if you're thinking about home buying, and this is important, you've got to be in repayment. You've got to be paying your loans. You cannot take the 6 month holiday. You just can't. And the requirements for home buying, just on another note, are about to change and go up. Used to have like a 575, 600 credit score and could get approved with the FHA loan. And now they're looking at moving that to 660 because the interest rates are so great. So let me pause here and just kind of stress to you guys, this would be the time to get on top of your credit, to get on top of your student loan payments, which are going to affect your credit. Because if you're trying to get approved, excuse me, for anything, this is going to be super crucial for you to know and know at this time. Okay, so I am going to, I'm trying to figure out if you guys have questions, and I'm going to apologize. I can't see anyone's questions if you do. So I'll continue to talk. All right. So we'll see if you guys have any questions pretty soon. So that's the gist of it in terms of understanding what's happening with the CARES Act. Now, if you are an entrepreneur, this is going to be for you. I always stress that if you're an entrepreneur, you want to have a nonprofit arm. So creating a nonprofit that complements the work that you do within your for-profit so that you can take advantage of public service loan forgiveness. I know many entrepreneurs are super nervous about leaving. They're pretty nervous about leaving their jobs, especially their nonprofit jobs or not-for-profit jobs because of the public service loan forgiveness. But I want to stress to you guys to, not be nervous about that. So you can, and this is what I call the entrepreneur hack. You can definitely, guys, you can definitely take advantage of the public service loan forgiveness program by having a nonprofit support your for-profit work. And then, you got to have your board of directors and have somebody else sign your paperwork here. You may want to consider streamlining a consistent flow of money through your nonprofit to be able to pay yourself at least 30 hours a week. There's no set amount, could be a stipend, so that you could continue and apply for the public service loan forgiveness. So I bring that up because I know a lot of people right now are kind of reconsidering some career options. Some people are getting really super inspired, which is exciting, to become entrepreneurs, but are like, oh my God, but what about my forgiveness? So you may want to consider if you're going to be starting off as a new entrepreneur, as you LLC, you may want to also create a nonprofit entity right at the very beginning. Or if you're an existing entrepreneur, you can go ahead and same thing, you can add a nonprofit arm to your business. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense to you guys so far. And if there are any questions, please let me know. I'm going to keep an eye out to see if there are any questions that come in. So what I would stress to you guys, if you're thinking about, what are my next steps? What should I be doing during this time with the nonprofit piece? Or the student loan piece, I should say. Right now, I would recommend if you're having a change of income, particularly due to Corona, this is a good time to update your lender like, hey, my income has changed. You can do what's called an immediate recalculation under the income-driven repayment plan option. So even if your payment was calculated for the year, but let's say you're experiencing less income, or let's say you are experiencing a change in income for the lease amount, like a change in money, you may want to submit this certification to be an immediate recalculation. That's the option you would choose. And you would provide to them a letter showing you were laid off or hours had been reduced. You want some sufficient documentation so that they can recalculate your payment. So when payments start as of October, this will be a good opportunity for you to take advantage of. So don't stay in a payment that's going to be too much for you if you're struggling, trying to figure that out. Maybe you're not struggling. Maybe you want to take this money and apply it elsewhere during this time. It's totally up to you. No judgment either way, but we just want to make sure, that you are, feeling empowered and comfortable. as to navigating your student loans. Now, I'll tell you this, a lot of times, and I have conversations with entrepreneurs about this all the time. How you structure yourself is going to matter, excuse me, when we're talking about your student loan repayment if you're going for an income-based repayment. Now, what I mean by that is that if you are structured as LLC, but you made a lot of money, and it looks like you made most of the money, and you didn't, have opportunity to write things off, um, it could really hike up, like a lot, your student loan repayment. The other thing is you could consider is you could look into changing your organization if you're eligible for an S corp. Now, the S corp would allow you to go into payroll, and then you can, build out and judge your repayment from there. So it's going to be super important. Your first couple of years, you may not make a lot of money. You're not even going to think about it, but then boom, you never know what God can do. Then that changes everything. And then now your payment amount can change too. So don't forget, as you are earning more income over the years, your student loan payments are going to be totally affected. So you want to try to, uh, get that amount down as low as possible, or in terms of reporting income, you want to get your payment to be as low as possible, if that makes sense. Um, okay. And I'm going to see if there are any questions. I'll pause for a second. I'll see if there are any questions at this time. Uh, okay, we'll keep going. All right. So, and thanks for everyone that's just jumping in and tuning in. We're talking about student loans and entrepreneurship. If you have questions related to your student loans or student loans and being an entrepreneur, please do let me know. If you're watching the replay, thank you for that as well. And of course, this is a continuous conversation that I do have on my platform. If you're on IG, you can visit the Student Loan Doctor. All right, so just to give you some more information, I want to go back to something I had said earlier. If you are looking to home buy, this year home buying is going to look a lot different because of the credit requirements. What I'm going to recommend is that if you want to write this down, it's important to know. If you have, I would say, like over 50,000 in student loan debt, you may want to look into having a, what's the right term for that? You may want to look into having an income driven plan that hopefully could show your income at a suitable level over the amount you owe. So, for example, if your income driven plan would be less than, let's say, $500, 1% of 50,000, then I would recommend you go into an income driven plan so they can use that number when they're pulling up your debt to income ratio if you're home buying. Now, again, why does this matter? So when you're home buying, there's different programs that you're eligible for that may be available to you, but some things you may not be eligible for, just depending on your income and depending on the payment plan you choose to go into. If you have a lot of student loan debt and high income, it could be a challenge with trying to get you into a low affordable plan that's reported on your credit so that the lender can use that information. So I'm going to recommend to you guys, and you want to take note of this, when you're looking at different banks, you want to take a note that and ask this question before you give your name, date of birth, and social. You want to ask them what plans do they have for those with student loan debt, or particularly you might want to put the word in high student loan debt if you owe over 50,000 and you're looking to buy a home. This is going to be super crucial because banks have to sell what they have, and we almost kind of want to put them in a position to say they do or they don't have what you need. Like we want to know that before you have your credit run, if that makes sense. So the other thing I'll go back one step to is a lot of questions I've been getting during this time is that when it comes to your how do I put it? When it comes to your credit score right now, it's a little challenging. The credit score in student loans, you got to remember student loans might be the thing that's been on your credit report for the longest period of time. And so you want to make sure it's like super imperative. You want to make sure that your credit score is is a positive indication, I would say, of the management of your student loan debt. So, um, if you have been late before on payments, if you've ever defaulted, it can severely hurt your credit score. But sometimes that information can be removed, or you can negotiate with the lender sometimes to remove it, and then that'll really help you raise your score because if your student loans are in a mess, default, just in a bad place, it's going to really, really, really put you behind when it comes to getting approved because of your credit. All right, Alexia had a question. Would you recommend refinancing private student loans? To be quite honest, Alexia, right now, I would not, I would not refinance your federal debt over to private debt. As you can see, the government has the power to extend payments out until God knows when. They can apply credits to your federal loan account. There's so many things that the government can do with your federal loans that if you change them over to private loans, the private loans companies are not required and are not really looking out for their borrowers. So I'm going to recommend you stay put with your federal loans at least another year. Because if anything comes out in terms of paying these loans off, putting a stipend onto your account, putting a certain amount onto your account, you could miss it because you changed over to private loans or having a private loan. I hope that answers your question. You can comment and let me know if it does or if it doesn't. But great question. But no, again, the question was, would you recommend refinancing to private student loans? And the answer is no. I say keep private private and keep federal federal. A good example of that again is the program and the provisions that are coming out through the CARES Act. So I'd recommend you stay put. Personally, I think that would be good. Um, so any other questions? Thank you so much for that question. That was a great question. Um, and you're welcome. You're welcome. And the last thing is, and I know we'll wrap up in just a second, but the last thing is to be really, really honest with you. Right now, you guys are going to see new things happen that we probably never expected to happen as it relates to student loans. You got to remember we're coming up on an election, and there's so much controversy around forgive all student loan debt, or they'll say apply this amount of money to people's accounts, or apply these payments or freeze payments. So what I find right now, and this is just my opinion, elections that are going to be upcoming are going to be totally centered around student loan debt. Um, and to get that millennial vote particularly. So you've got to decide when you're voting who is talking your language, who's what name of the game are they talking about in terms of repayment of the student loans. So I think that's a great question, Alexi. If you're still on the line, just want to be careful because private loan companies are unregulated. And I really want everyone to know that the government does not have any control over collection activities. Um, I think there's going to be an increase for marketing employees from private loan companies during this time. Again, the government has no bear, no witness over that either. So just something to definitely consider and think about. But yeah, I totally, totally recommend that you not go private. Let's see what the government's going to do with their loans. And let's see what provisions will be given. And you can take advantage of that. I know the interest could be lower. That's how the private loan companies get you. But if you read the fine print, they're like, oh, if you miss one payment, just one, or, etc., then they will be able to change your interest rate to like 10% or 15%, which is, really, really horrible, not like the best thing in the world. So, um, okay, what other questions do you guys have? That was a great question. I'm recommending from private to federal. Thank you so much. And I'm just looking here at the questions as well to see if they come in. Okay, let me tell you guys how to follow me in social media world, and just so much more information we could cover. If you go to Instagram, the Student Loan Doctor, follow me there. We have a live webinar coming up this Sunday, explaining student loans in a more seamless fashion, and what to do if you're in default. The website is sldwebinars.com, sldwebinars.com. And if you need our help, if you want some one-on-one attention and have questions as it relates to our loans, no question is a dumb question or too big of a question for us to answer. The website is drpleasehelpme.com. And Alexia says, what advice would you give to get rid of private loans? Can they be converted to federal? Unfortunately, they cannot be converted to federal, only refinance with another private loan company. What state do you live in? I wonder, Alexia. But I would recommend if you have private loans, you really want to come up with a affordable repayment plan strategy. I'm going to tell you another thing I would recommend is that you look and keep an eye on if there are any changes or fees that are being added to your private loan account, because they can get sold to a different company, or sometimes companies are creative and add new administrative fees and so forth. Oh, you're in Texas, so good news. I have good news for you. So the good news is if you live in Pennsylvania or Texas, look at that. Private loan companies do not go after your income if you, let's say, cannot make a payment. Other states, private loan debt, they can definitely go after your income assets, and um, in Pennsylvania and Texas, you know, they could try to sue you, but 9 out of 10 is going to be very unlikely that the case will continue on past that moment of them suing you. So I always tell people, like, especially those that live in New Jersey, I'm like, you should move over to Pennsylvania. It's safer here. Pennsylvania and Texas have very, very strict laws as it relates to interest and debt collection. So that's a really, really good thing to know. Now, you should try to pay your bills, of course, right? But that's just good to know. Like if something major came up and you couldn't, or you paid it down later, or went on a payment arrangement later, it's good to know this information and your rights so that they could not come after you. They can harass you, but come after you and take you to court for 25% of your income. That doesn't happen if you're living in Pennsylvania or Texas. So I hope that information helped. Yeah. What other questions, if any, do you have at this time? Okay. All right. And let me just check to see if there's anything else. I think we're good to go. All right, guys. So I think we are just about at our ending point. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're welcome, Alexia. Thank you for your questions and your comments. Again, follow on Instagram, the Student Loan Doctor. I always put a lot of information out there for you guys to tune into, and be prepared to get good information and listen in and be inspired. The name of the game right now is just stay in the loop, in the know as it relates to your student loans and your account. You don't want to go off the grid and miss something, right? So this conversation was important for us to have tonight. And thank you to whoever is going to watch the replay. I know there's some information you can take from this as well and learn. So let me just check in. Okay. And I think we are all set. Um, all right, guys, have a great rest of the conference. Dave, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a phenomenal conference in terms of the replay. I know for sure. I know all the live content was amazing. And then the replay content, you guys are going to really, really enjoy soaking these gems up again, especially post Corona, COVID 19. Take care of yourselves, be healthy, be mentally well, be financially well. And until we check in with each other again, thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, Dave had a question before we close out. What are reliable sources content which we can read to stay in particular? No, during Corona. So CNN is always really good. CNN usually promotes and gives information as accurately as they possibly could, with not too much fluff and bias. Um, the lender's website, so your lender, like if you have Fed loans or Great Lakes or Navient, always go to your lender's website for direct information. You could also go to oh goodness, I just winked out. Oh, the whitehouse.gov. Thank you. Whitehouse.gov always gives out good information and timely information that, any executive orders or things that are possibly going to be passed, you'll see that there. Um, of course, our page as well can give you some good information too. So there are a few scenarios in which someone could have a student loan be forgiven if they work for a nonprofit or not for profit. That's important. They can have their student loan most likely forgiven if they qualify for an income driven repayment plan. I'm going to say low income. No, it's income driven repayment plan, and the qualifying employer for at least 30 hours a week. So public service loan forgiveness is one of them. Teacher loan forgiveness, if you're a teacher, there's a separate pot of money from the public service loan forgiveness pot that you can have your loans forgiven if you're a teacher. If you're working in the healthcare field, again, it's going to come down to the classification of the employer, and it's going to come down to, are your loans in the right repayment plan? Are they current and not behind? So those things are going to matter most when trying to see if you can get a student loan forgiven. Um, and I think I'm hitting all the points. Yeah. But again, there are forgiveness options available on the state level too. State to state, you can always say loan forgiveness in the state of Texas, for example, and then you'll see what resources come up. Sometimes it's by your discipline, by what areas of study you are working in. That can count and help towards a discount, or well, not discount, towards forgiveness, I should say, or a grant. So it's just going to depend on what you've got going on, what field you're in, and then utilizing the right resources. And then the podcast that I have, which is on iTunes, I do a podcast regarding and around student loan forgiveness. So please make sure you guys check that out. That would be really helpful. Um, Let me see if there's any. Okay, no, I think we're set. Okay, thank you, Dave, for your questions. And I think we're all set on the Facebook end. You guys have any more questions? Please do not hesitate to reach out and let me know. And then I'm excited just to continue to see the learning with you guys and you all managing and getting through Corona, COVID-19 in a well place. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Have a great rest of the evening.